Today I'm gonna get in your head with the brand new XDUOO TA-66 OTL heavyweight tube headphone amplifier and preamp. What? Hi, I'm Bob, and you, my friends, are back in the United States of Analog. Welcome to our great nation of headphoneification. Yeah, all right. Hey, we got a little housekeeping to do before we get to the review of this heavyweight. This thing weighs 11 pounds.
It's a monster.
And we'll get into that in just a second because it may change the way you look at headphone amplifiers. But some housekeeping first. Thanks for being here. Do all that stuff. 2 weeks ago, I crossed the 10,000 sub threshold. Thanks to you, United States, Canada, and everywhere else. Thank you so much, our great nation. Yes, I am your leader until you elect another one. We're gonna get to 100,000, I promise you. Also, I want to address an elephant in the room right now, and I know you've already spotted it. Yeah, it's a picture of me with Rick Springfield from the 80s. Yeah, I know. This was around the time of Jesse's Girl. But he came down to my office at the Frank Irwin Center where I worked, a 17,000 seat arena. I was a publicist, and that was just one of the many experiences that I had. So today we are going to talk about headphones and headphone amplification. And I know these reviews don't do big numbers, but I think this is a special little piece of fun-fi gear. I teased it a couple of weeks ago in a video of several different pieces, but I wanted to single this one out because it's a heavyweight, it performs well, it's got amazing tube glow, and at the price point that it is right now today on Amazon, $219, wow, 11 pounds? That works out to just under $1.25 an ounce. That is the best value in hi-fi. I mean it, this thing is serious. It transcends fun-fi to some degree. I don't know of anything else that's this big or this heavy or this well finished. Look at this powder finish. It's almost identical to the finish on my KEF LS50 Meta speakers, which are also beautiful. In fact, I think I'm gonna put a little system together with this TA-66 and see what it can do. But we're gonna talk mostly about headphones. Now, my headphone journey began many decades ago, and I had a little Sony 7 transistor radio. I don't know why there were 7 transistors, but there were. And it came with a little, what did they call those? Earpieces? We didn't call them pods or buds. It was an earphone, was that it? And you would get under the covers when you were a kid and play that transistor radio so no one could hear it. Kind of like in that Ramones song, do you remember Rock and Roll Radio, right? Look up the lyrics, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then I kind of moved to a beginner system, and I had some Koss headphones. I don't remember the model number. This would be in the mid-70s now, with those vinyl ear cups that would just make your ears sweat. And I remember wearing those things and playing that music to volumes detrimental to my hearing health. I remember getting amped up before baseball games. I used to be a pitcher. I had 7 lifetime no-hitters in Little League. Here's the headlines to prove it. Before the games, I would put those Koss headphones on and I would get my wool uniform. It was ridiculous. I would rock out to Grand Funk Railroad and Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Yes Roundabout, you know, and get amped up for the game and just make my ears bleed. I kind of wish I hadn't done that. Whew, that was a lot of distortion being pumped into my ear holes. And then, of course, we moved into the Walkman age. But these days, my headphone listening is kind of confined to late at night, lower volumes, maybe a glass of wine, or listening to music on my bedroom system. That's how I like to listen to headphone music these days. I don't like to crank it up that loud anymore. And here are some of my headphone amplification requirements. And I have some pretty decent gear. My beloved Technique has a very, very good headphone section. This right here, believe it or not, is the first McIntosh dedicated headphone amp, the MHA 100. Not a super fan of it. It's a little warm, and when I combine it with my Sennheiser 650s, which are also warm, as I've described before on this channel, like a wet blanket. I think headphone listening should be better than a wet blanket over your head. I also have a wooden encased Geshelli Labs Archel 3 Pro headphone amplifier, and I love that headphone amplifier because it's got tone controls, it looks cool, you can see through it, it's got a custom wooden case, and it's a marvel. And that's the one I have in my bedroom system. But this is, let me turn it on. I'm sorry. I'm grunting like it's heavy. It's only 11 pounds, and you know I'm pretty fit. Here it is right here. I just turned it on. Look at the size of that tube. This TA-66 from XDUOO features a CN2 tube for the preamp stage and a CN5P tube for the buffer stage. It's an OTL amplifier, which I learned today means it's output transformerless. And according to the literature, that can equate to lower distortion and less power absorption or consumption. I guess those words would be interchangeable. A lot of audiophiles prefer this in their amplification. This has a very nice blue backlit LED back there behind that red volume knob. I don't know if you can see it here. That's a nice touch. You don't have to do that at $219. And look at that glow. I'm going to turn the lights down low a little bit later so you can really see it. And this thing is built really nice. You know, these design elements might not be for everyone, these channels that are kind of carved in there. I kind of like it. And at $219, you may already be tempted to pull the trigger on this one. Let's take a look at some glamour shots while I tell you a little more about the TA-66 from XDUOO. It has professional grade resistances and capacitors for uncolored sound, solid aluminum alloy shell and sandblasted texture panel for durability and interference resistance. It's got point-to-point wiring for minimal interference and pure sound. As I mentioned, it's OTL. You're good to go with headphone impedance from 60 to 600 ohm. Size-wise, 11.5 by 6 by just over 7 inches. Signal to noise are reported 107 dB, and again, it weighs in at 11 pounds. Oh yeah, and the frequency range is 10 hertz to 30 kilohertz. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. It uses a full-size headphone jack, and despite the box, this is not a balanced unit. Oddly enough, the box says balanced headphone amplifier. This, to my knowledge, is not balanced. I could be wrong, but it doesn't have XLR and it doesn't have any kind of balanced nomenclature on the unit. So again, you've got to beware when you read the promotional materials or look at the box or whatever when it comes to fun-fi gear. Just make sure you know what you're getting into. All right, I started out listening to vinyl from my Technics SL1200 M7L. I got it right this time. I was listening to some of my classic rock favorites. I listened to a little bit of Queen. I listened to some Clash. I listened to some, even some country. I listened to some Chris Stapleton. It sounded pretty good. All right, here's my hot take about listening to vinyl on a headphone system. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you disagree with this statement. And I didn't believe this when I was a kid, when vinyl was all I had and headphones was all I could listen to because, I had to keep the sound down in my bedroom. Nowadays, when I listen to vinyl on headphones, it's putting my ears too close to the groove. I'm hearing all the noise. I'm hearing the stylus going through the motions, going through the grooves, the surface noise, the pops and clicks, even more than I do with speakers. Because with speakers, they could be 10 feet away, and some of those vinyl inconsistencies, let's call them, get masked a little bit by the air conditioning, by the traffic outside, by the dog bark, whatever noise you've got going on kind of masks some of that noise. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing, and that's not necessarily a great advertisement for vinyl. You can tell by looking behind me that I love vinyl, but I didn't find that experience, at least today, very enjoyable. Now, it had nothing to do with this great little amplifier. It just had to do with the mechanics of playing vinyl and having that music pumped straight into your ear holes. Again, I may be completely off base here, and if I am, let me know. But I found it much more enjoyable to listen to streaming music through Tidal, through my Giselli Labs J2 4499, I think, AKM, into this. I was able to listen longer and enjoy the music I love without distraction. And I think this TA-66 went a long way into kind of undigitizing the digital sound that is in streaming music. It made it more organic, more vinyl-like, without the pops and the clicks. This is my impression. This is what my ears were telling me today. I like the fact that this unit has kind of a standard potentiometer. And if you don't know what a potentiometer is, it's the volume knob there. It's got a step knob, lots of kind of soft clicks take you around the dial. You don't have to jack the knob all the way over to 3 or 4 o'clock to get a decent dynamic level. I got lots of dynamics with this. I got lots of punch. The sound with the TA-66 was pretty much between your ears, which is what you can expect. And you know, one of the other downsides, again, no fault of the amp, is that it's going to sound different with different headphones. And you can see by this picture all the different headphones that I was running. They all have different impedances. They all have different sounds. Closed back, open back, semi-open, semi-closed. I found with this particular amplifier, I liked more of an open back headphone. The Sennheiser 650s, and I don't know why I still own them. Maybe because my wife gave them to me as a Christmas gift, and you know, I don't want to offend her, but I think they have to go. I'm just not enjoying them.
It's just too warm and unexciting.
I got the best results from the now sold out GR1s from Emotiva. These have been discontinued. You can't get them. I've got mine. I'm keeping them. I like them for the most part. They have some flaws. They could feel a little better on the head, but the sound was very open. They're semi-open, or if you want to call them partially closed, we could go there too. But these were the headphones that sounded best with the TA-66 that I own. And I own all price-appropriate headphones. I'm not the kind of person that's going to go spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on headphones. If you want to send me some, I'd be happy to check them out. But for me, the juice is not worth the squeeze when it comes to headphone listening. I feel like I get enough headphone listening enjoyment from the equipment that I have that's all kind of price appropriate. We got $219 for the amp. I don't know what those headphones listed for, $350 or something like that. That seems like the right combination to me. Now, when it comes to comparisons, the best standalone headphone amplifier I have is the Shelly Labs Archel 3 Pro. Now, I love this amplifier for a lot of reasons. I love the tone controls. I love the look. I love the pretty lights. I also love the TA-66, the glowing tubes. Different form factors. What I like about the Shelly Labs Archel 3 Pro is that the sound is a little wider. It's a little clearer. And that makes sense because we have some very nice Sparkos Labs op amps in here. And I think that's the difference between this and this. This organic tube sound. Think of it as vinyl sound without the pops and clicks. And with this, a little more spaciousness and a little more clarity. It's not to say one is better than the other. We talk about flavors in this audio game, 2 different flavors. And why not have them both? And when you think that you can possibly roll the tubes with this amplifier, now we're getting all kinds of different flavors. Now, just to clarify, I don't want you to think that this is mushy or overly warm. It's not. One of my favorite test tracks streaming is Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly. There are these little finger cymbals at the beginning. I think they're finger cymbals. I'm not a musician, but that's what they sound like to me, or maybe triangles. Anyway, some systems, some speakers, headphones, I can't hear those at all. I know they're there because I've heard them before. I heard them with this amplifier, and it tells me that this is more than just a warm tube amplifier. There's good things going on in here. It may have to do with the point-to-point wiring. It may have to do with the OTL form factor that's here. I thought there was a transformer in here. I reported earlier there was a transformer because this looks like a transformer housing. But I think all those things add up to some pretty clear sound. I'm very impressed. Now I'm going to hook it up to a Frankenstein system with the KEF LS50 Metas, which have matching colorways, and the ZA3 amplifier from Fozzy Audio. Stick around, and boom, I'm back just like that. You know, I did manage to set up a pretty cool little system with the TA-66. I would call it a near-field system. I set it up here on the bar. It'd be much like you would set up on a desktop, and it was actually pretty cool. And I did employ my KEF LS50 Meta, which have always sounded kind of thin and a little too bright for me. But in combination with the TA-66 tube amp and with this amazing ZA3 from Fozzy Audio, Gishelli DAC, we've got WIM or Weem mini streamer here. It made a pretty cool little near-field desktop system that had a lot of punch, had a lot of heart and soul in it. I was surprised. It made these KEF Metas feel much weightier than I've ever heard them before. If weightier is an audio phrase, weightier, that's what they sounded like to me. They just had a lot more body and character than I can remember. In fact, so much so that I'm gonna try to figure out a way with the manufacturer to keep this, to buy this TA-66, because I think it is very unique. And I think in combination with all this stuff, it sounded really good. Now, I'm not one of those YouTubers who can say, oh, definitively, oh, it was the preamp that was doing this, or the power amp that was doing that, or it was the DAC. In this case, in most cases, it's the combination of all that stuff. I think everything here was doing its job. And it actually gave me a lot of joy listening to this small system in this space. I want to eventually get it all unplugged and plug it in back here, but you know, we've got some negotiating to do there. So yes, the TA-66 did work as a preamp. Do I recommend it as a preamp? Well, let's just call it a headphone amp where the preamp is a little bit of a added value, okay? Because I think if you need a preamp, if you're at that level of your audio file journey that you need a preamp, you're probably looking for something with a built-in DAC perhaps, and multiple inputs and things like that. Tone controls maybe. You're not going to get any of that with, oh, this thing gets heavier every time with this. You're not going to get that. But you're going to get a preamp added in. It's a bonus, you know? So look at it that way. But as a headphone amplifier, I really like the TA-66. The upside, I think it sounds rich. I think it still sounds clear. It doesn't have some of that wet blanket feel, that wet blanket sound that I talk about so much with some of the tube gear that I hear. I like the form factor. I love the knob feel, and I like a lot of the little touches that they've done here. Again, this I feel like transcends fun-fi, and you know, it's more of a, you know, quote unquote, in my words, legitimate piece of audio gear. There's something about it that just appeals to me. It harkens back to the past. It has this big honking tube. It does its job. And I think it's a great conversation starter if you want to have it in a situation like this, or in your office, or in your main system, whatever. I think people are gonna take notice. Downside, let's see. Lack of inputs, as I mentioned, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I can't say it's the be-all and end-all in sound, but at a price point of between $220 and $250, I think there is great value here. The other thing is just the unknown. I mean, these fun-fi products that come from, you know, wherever they come from. In this case, this came from APOS, the APOS website, and you can get this on Amazon or the APOS website. Yeah, you know, these components, they change all the time. And who knows if this is going to give you 2 years of life, if it's going to give you 10 years of life. We just don't know. It's not one of those big traditional manufacturer situations where a component is in the market for 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. But I think this has a very good, solid build quality, solid sound. But I've gone on too long about it. I need to wrap up. Let me just say this. You don't want to spend $4,500 for something like this. This is your gateway. Give it a shot, you know? And if it's not DOA, or it's still running after 30 days or your return period on Amazon, then it's probably going to give you a pretty long life. It's a recommend from me. If you want to get your tube kicks, then get a TA-66. This is actually a lamp from World Market. Get a TA-66. You'll be glad you did, I think. Thanks for being here in the United States of Analog. I'll put all the appropriate links below, and I'm also going to put a list of my YouTube All-Stars. If you want to know who I watch in the audio world and in other worlds, check below and let me know who you're watching, because some of them are my friends.
And some of them don't like me at all.
There. What's important is that the geniuses at YouTube have had a meeting and they've already decided the video you want to watch next is right here. It's right here. And all you have to do is click on it. Click on it to make me very happy. And I think that's what we want, isn't it? That's it. We'll see you next time. Be well and enjoy your system. Yeah, he did stuff some sweat socks down there and sand down the jeans a little bit to emphasize that